devastating proportions. But since 0.1% of the richest own the same as the bottom 90%, only a few will experience losing most of their wealth. But for the masses, it will still be devastating because many will lose their jobs, houses, and pensions. The Social Security safety nets will disappear, since governments will be bankrupt with massive debt, interest expenses, and entitlements coupled with very little tax revenue. So in coming years, stocks, bonds, and property will not represent wealth preservation assets, but instead wealth destruction assets. This is something that very few people will realize until it's too late. A house has been an ATM, an automatic teller machine, for the last few decades, with people borrowing against it to spend on holidays or cars or just to live. In coming years, a house will not be an asset but a liability. For people who have a mortgage loan, it will be impossible to keep up with interest payments. In addition, most homeowners will not be able to afford, listen to this now, property taxes. Another very great evil. Maintenance, electricity, heating, etc. Yeah, there's no biblical basis for property taxes. Where did the property tax come in? I think, what, 1800s maybe? It's a socialistic, communistic scheme. Because think about this. Even if you paid off your home and you had no mortgage, right? If property taxes go up high enough and you're unemployed, how are you going to pay for that home? How are you going to pay the taxes on that home? You're going to lose that home, even though you paid for it. Is that evil or is that evil? Think about it. Now, there's only one way around that I know. My late friend John Saunders, or John Quaid, the character actor who starred in many movies with Clint Eastwood, Every Which Way But Loose, and so on. He played the ugly guy, you know, the big, ugly-looking guy on the motorcycle. Right Turn, Clyde, remember where the monkey or the orangutan punches him out? You've seen that movie. That was my friend, John Saunders, John Quaid. He ran against John Garamendi. John Garamendi, the insurance commissioner of California. He ran against him back around 84, I think, for 5th Senate District. He lost. But nevertheless, he was the better man, intellectually, ethically, in my opinion. But Californians didn't deserve a guy like John Quaid. And now he passed away in 2009. But no, John Quaid, he talks about what's called a alloidial title, A-L-L-O-D-I-A-L. A alloidial title is kind of like the title that the kings had, I believe. It's where you don't have to pay property taxes, okay? And the only way to get a alloidial title is by petitioning your local tax assessor, I think, to change the status. Now, they're not going to willingly give into that because it would represent a loss of thousands of dollars of property taxes each year. But I believe there is a way to do that. You can research it out yourself. But you can't have a mortgage. You need to pay off your home. So don't even think about it too much until you pay off that home. Don't borrow against your home. That's another problem. One of my neighbors did that. You know what happened to him? He spent the money on a hot rod, I think, and some other things. His wife convinced him to do that, and he lost his home eventually. He lost his home. I don't know what he did with the money that he pulled out of his home, but he lost his home, and now the man passed away this past year. He had throat cancer and a heart attack. Rather than being bedridden with tubes stuck down his throat, he said, I don't want to be hooked up to those. And so he was left to die. On his own volition, though. So it's, you know, the stress alone probably killed him. I mean, it didn't help any. People were squatting in his home. People broke into the back of his home and violated what used to be his. I mean, where do people get this idea that they can just camp out in other people's homes? This is the mentality that we have today. You know, gangbangers graffitiing on stop signs and sidewalks. They weren't taught any better by their parents, I guess, right? You don't destroy other people's property. With regards to stocks, Egon says, I have not changed my mind that against gold they will decline 90 to 95% in the next 5 years or so. One exception will be precious metal stocks. But even there, investors must worry about the custodial risk. Another sector which is benefiting is the weapons industry. Investment advisors today recommend bonds as wealth protection assets. I cannot understand how anyone can invest 1 penny in a bond. Governments are bankrupt and will never repay their debts. They might attempt to repay them with worthless printed paper money, or they will declare a 100-year moratorium. Same with corporate bonds. Corporations will not have sufficient earning power to even pay the interest. The other factor which will make bonds worthless is that rates will go from a 5,000-year low to levels in double figures, or even to infinity as bonds become worthless. Well, that's what happens when you have hyperinflation. Bonds become worthless. Agricultural, I mean, we don't have hyperinflation yet, but I believe it's coming. I believe it's coming. Once the velocity of money, once the speed at which money is circulating in the economy becomes fast enough, people will get out of their dollars so fast because everything keeps going higher. They don't want to wait to buy things because the price will be more expensive tomorrow. Does that make sense? A true wealth preservation asset has many important characteristics. It must be recognized as money anywhere in the world. It must be portable. It must be physical. It must be liquid. It must be indestructible. It must have a high value to weight. It must be divisible. It must be scarce. It must represent stable purchasing power. And finally, it must have a long tradition of being real money. Well, what is that? What could that be? Gold? Maybe gold? Maybe silver? And this brings us to gold and silver. No other wealth preservation asset has these characteristics. Certainly not Bitcoin and not even diamonds. Gold and silver can and should be kept outside your country or residence. This means you can flee to it if necessary. This certainly is not the case with property, for example. All currencies... Oh, and then there's a quote by Voltaire. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value. Zero. Zero. All currencies will soon start the next phase of downward acceleration in their race to the bottom. The dollar is likely to be the next currency to fall. As currencies decline, governments will introduce exchange controls, and it will be impossible to transfer money, gold, or other assets outside of your country. That is why it's imperative to own gold and silver outside the country you live, in private vaults and in safe jurisdictions. Many people ask what percentage of their assets should be held in gold and silver. This clearly depends on the size of their assets. My personal view is that you should hold sufficient metals to last for many years if other assets or income, keep burping here, disappear. So this could be 10% if you're very wealthy, or it could be over 50%. Personally, I consider 25% to be a minimum. But since I believe there is no better form of wealth preservation, I would be quite comfortable with a much higher percentage. Real assets are at historical low against financial assets. Since the graph below includes real estate, which is a bubble asset, remaining real assets such as commodities, including gold and silver, are even more oversold. That means they're really, really cheap. Yeah, gold is under $20 an ounce, folks. Did you know that? Are you even following what the price of gold and silver is? You should be, because it's real money. Like I said, I mean, I've lived through 2 real big bull markets. One, 1980. I mean, I couldn't buy enough silver. I remember owning it at $5, $6, $7 an ounce when it went all the way up to $50 almost, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the market. And then recently in 2011. All right? Just 6 years ago when it hit about $48 an ounce. And I saw the lows around, like I said, 1999, 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. I was living in my Hollywood apartment, and I saw it at around, I think it bottomed at around $4.15 an ounce, roughly. Give or take 10 cents. And I saw it continually go up over the next, 10 years, 11 years? And So anyway, in conclusion, it's important, extremely important, that people understand that investors still have a unique opportunity to acquire physical gold and silver prices, which will not be seen for a very, very long time, if ever. All right? So that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed that article. And you can read these articles here on King World News. That's a website you should be familiar with, King World News. Hosted by Eric King, and this article is by Egon von Greyerz. It's called Preparing for Financial Armageddon. Great article. Well, that's it for now. Until we meet again, thank you for listening and watching.